In some previous circles, it seems that we were taught restoration was pretty much a simple process of saying, I'm sorry, forgive me, picking right back up where we left off and continuing on as if nothing really ever happened. Is that true? Hi, this is Barry Phillips with 10-Minute Torah, day number 2, the Torah portion, Tzaria, or Tzaria. So we go back again to Leviticus, Vayikra, chapter number 12. Yesterday we read about the verses concerning a woman who has given birth. Now, if she has given birth to a male child, she is ritually impure for 1 week. That is the time of the process of her bleeding. Anyone who's given birth will tell you it takes a little while for the body to begin to seriously heal itself. This is natural. And then she is to remain set apart for an additional 33 days for a total of 40. If she gives birth to a daughter, she is ritually impure for 14 days, 2 weeks, and then an additional 66 days for a total of 80. So the casual reading may cause the reader to discern, well, the Torah really is anti-woman, anti-female, because it is assigning a double time frame of recovery for a female as to a male. Therefore, the Torah favors males and disfavors females. If we read it with Western eyes and Western cultural values, we might discern that and think we're accurate. But in fact, it's the opposite. And I'll try to explain why. Just a note here. When you study the ministry, the words, the teachings, the actions that are recorded concerning Yeshua the Messiah, you will find that he was all about elevating women, not denigrating them or casting them down. Just a note. So now, to the woman who has given birth. The principle is this. When one has possession of a set-apartness, a holiness, if you will, it's the Hebrew word kedusha, and it's the set-apart status that is possessed, is acquired, it is maintained. When that set-apartness empties out or is taken away due to some circumstance, some event, then the void that is left behind is then filled with tamiyah, T-A-M-A-Y-A-H, tamiyah. That is a ritual impurity. The greater the extent of the kedusha that is lost, the larger the vacuum, and thus the greater amount of ritual impurity, tamiyah, that is acquired. When a woman gives birth to a female, she is giving birth to a co-creator. And a co-creator in this sense. Yah is the one from whom life comes. But the vessel in which life is brought to us is the female vessel. So when Yah wants to bring forth new life, he chooses the feminine or the female vessel to do so. It is the woman then who gives birth, who presents life, who brings forth life. In a sense, she is presenting or establishing, or you could say creating life. In that sense, she is a co-creator with Yah. So when she gives birth to a female, she is giving birth to a potential co-creator. Therefore, there is a greater sense of kedusha assigned to the female in the womb as opposed to the male. The greater the kedusha, Once it has departed and the child has been born, the greater the extent or the volume or the quality or quantity would be a better word of the tamiyah, the ritual impurity that is acquired. It thus takes longer, in this case, twice as long, for that ritual impurity to be processed. When we talk about ritual impurity, we're not necessarily talking about sin. Sin will indeed cause you to become impure. But there are other life circumstances, some of them very natural. A woman's menstrual cycle, for example. If we are exposed to a dead body, for example, or to that which is defiling, we have had to handle a dead and unclean carcass of an unclean animal. If we've been in war and blood has been shed and fallen upon us. There are life circumstances that take place that render us not sinful, but ritually impure. In our Western culture, we don't really recognize that. We think, hey, go take a bath, wash it off with some soap and water, change your clothes, wash the dirty clothes. Hey, you did what you had to do. And we sum it up with those words, we let it go, and we go on our merry way. Yah says that ritual impurity is something he recognizes whether our culture and our training does or not. And he wants us to process it. So if a man has been engaged in warfare and he has shed blood and blood has been spilled upon him, when he comes back and the war is over, there is a ritual process that we will read about where he goes through cleansing and washing and separation. And it's to help him to process that which has occurred to him. A woman that is given birth, she needs time. Any man in his own right mind who has a wife that is given birth understands she's not going to be able just to jump up and continue life just as she was before the pregnancy ever occurred. Things are different. There's a child. There's healing that needs to take place in her body. There's hormonal changes and shifts that's got to take place. I mean, there's a list of things that need to be processed. She needs time. In other words, leave mama and her baby alone. Love them, help them, care for them, but leave them alone. That understood, when it comes to our sinful behaviors, that it do indeed render us ritually impure. And by that I mean, it could be something that limits us in our spiritual development. It could be something that, not even outside of sin. It's situations where our mind is otherwise focused. Our emotions are otherwise involved. They may become erratic. They may become highly charged. We may be living by instinct more than anything else at the moment. All of that needs to be processed out of us to get us into a right frame of mind and understanding as to how to mature and to grow spiritually. That's just one aspect of it. When Yah says that ritual impurity limits us, holds us back, keeps us in check, prevents us from fully expressing our devotion and worship and so forth to Him in a manner that we make traction, we're getting somewhere. He is saying to us, I want you to pay attention to the things that are limiting so that you can become elevated and unlimited. You can't just keep shoving stuff down and hiding it and sweeping it under the rug. Eventually, you've got to deal with that which makes you ritually impure so that you can come wholeheartedly and purely before me. Deal with your stuff. Get it taken care of so that we can approach the Father in a more effective means More tomorrow. Till then, shalom.